Hey y'all, I'm back with week 2 of Song of the Week, and this week we're going to be looking at Sonntag by Brahms. The two singers I listened to were Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau and Hermann Prey. I chose these two for a couple reasons. Firstly, my German is not very good, and both Prey and Fischer-Dieskau are German, so I'm hoping to observe some of their diction. The second reason is because they're both incredible baritones that, for me at least, are the faces of German lieder. When I get any German lieder, I go to Fischer-Dieskau because odds are that he has a recording of that song and that the recording is phenomenal. Step 1 is side-by-sides. Pretty much all of my music comes from books that have translations. This book doesn't have an IPA translation, but it has a much more readable English translation. So hab ich doch die ganze Woche mein feines Liebchen nicht gesehen. Ich sah es an einem Sonntag wohl vor der Türe stehen. Das tausendschöne Jungfräulein, das tausendschöne Herzlein, wollte Gott, ich wär heute bei ihr. So will mir doch die ganze Woche das Lachen nicht vergehen. Ich sah es an einem Sonntag wohl in der Kirche gehen. Das tausendschöne Jungfräulein, das tausendschöne Herzlein, wollte Gott, ich wär heute bei ihr. Though I haven't, for the whole week long, seen my pretty sweetheart, I saw her on a Sunday, standing at the door, the thousandfold beautiful maiden, the thousandfold beautiful darling. Would to God I were with her today. So for the whole week long, my joy will not cease. I saw her on Sunday going into church, a thousandfold beautiful maiden, the thousandfold beautiful darling. Would to God I were with her today. Here's some background on Brahms from a combination of what the book said and what his Wikipedia article said. Brahms was born in 1833 in Hamburg. He was a contemporary of Robert and Clara Schumann and Franz Liszt. He wrote a bunch of larger works such as symphonies or concertos, as well as writing hundreds of lied. He loved folk songs because he thought that it was the purest manifestation of the song ideal. Now to the translations of musical markings. The tempo marking is nicht zu langsam, meaning not too slow. There are a couple of dynamic markings in the form of piano and mezzo forte, but besides that, there isn't much. As for phrase markings, there are only 5 phrases in the piece. This is because the piece is strophic, meaning that it repeats the melody only with the second verse's words. German lieder, more than any other language of music, is characterized by strophic songs. Count singing for this piece is a bit more difficult than Vittoria, but the piece doesn't have any super hard rhythms. 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and... On to the piano. Technically this step is just playing the melody on the piano, but I think turning it into the piano step makes sense. What I mean by this is taking the time to look at what the piano is doing, as we talked about last time. The piano part for Sonntag is pretty simple. The left hand has a root dotted quarter note, as well as having quarter note arpeggios, while the right hand has syncopated arpeggios. This only changes in the last 2 phrases, in the Wollte Gott section. Step 7 is melody on a vowel. To be honest, this reminds me of a vocalese, a song without words. They're used to work on technique and musicality, and I guess this is also part of the goal of melody on a vowel. 8 is IPA. But unfortunately, there isn't any IPA in this book. Now what? I guess I could make an IPA sheet for the song if my IPA skills were better. A really good website for IPA is called IPA Source. It has tons of IPA translations with the lyrics of the song, the IPA, and the translations. But unlike Leader.net or IMSLP, it isn't free. You can buy individual translations, or you can buy a subscription to the site, which gives you access to any IPA translation on the site. The thing is, a year-long subscription is around $80. So while I might get a subscription in the future, I don't know if I can justify one right now. Oh, that was a long way of saying that I don't have IPA this week, sorry. Step 9 is monologue. I think, as with the piano step, I should turn this into the interpretation step. Anyone who has worked with me or has heard me probably can guess that interpretation is one of the things that I struggle with the most. This is not good because nobody wants to listen to somebody who is technically really good, but uninteresting. I was watching a backstage interview with German tenor Jonas Kaufmann, and he said something that stuck with me. Only beauty is nice, but never touching. This was in reference to the fact that when you play a character in an opera, you need to add emotion and meaning to it, or else your portrayal of the character is just boring. Music is about sounding good, of course, but it's also about telling a story or conveying a message or sharing your feelings. This is even more difficult and important when you're singing art song, because you don't have a character given to you. All you have is the text and the music. It's up to you to create the character and tell the story. The story of Sonntag isn't terribly exciting or deep. It's a song about missing the one you love, but taking solace in the fact that you'll see him again. At least that is what I'm going to try to portray when I sing it. Next, we have speak singing. Just like last week, this is mainly to make sure that rhythms are correct and that phrases make sense. So hab ich doch die ganzen Woche mein feines Liebchen nicht gesehen. Ich sah es an einem Sonntag wohl vor der Türe stehen. Now, finally, we have step 11, melody and text, as well as step 12, memorization. Here is Sonntag. So hab ich doch die ganze Woche mein feines Liebchen nicht gesehen. Ich sah es an einem Sonntag wohl vor der Türe stehen. Das tausend schöne Jungfräulein, das tausend schöne Herzelein. Wollte Gott, ich wär heute bei ihr. Wollte Gott, ich wär heute bei ihr. So will mir doch die ganze Woche das Lachen nicht mehr gehen. Ich sah es an einem Sonntag wohl in der Kirche gehen. Das tausend schöne Jungfräulein, das tausend schöne Herzelein. Wollte Gott, ich wär heute bei ihr. Wollte Gott, ich wär heute bei ihr. This week has been pretty fun. I will definitely acknowledge that my German diction is terrible, but it's something I'm trying to work on. Sonntag and Vittoria have really different tessituras. A tessitura is the average range of a piece. Even though the absolute ranges are not that different, D3 to G4 versus C3 to F4, most of Vittoria is spent on the higher side of the range, while most of Sonntag is spent on the lower side of it. At the beginning of the summer, I planned out all of the rep, and I tried to vary it by tempi and feel as much as I could week to week. I first thought that I messed up because Vittoria and Sonntag are pretty similar to tempi, but I think the tessitura and the strophic nature of Sonntag makes it different enough. That being said, if I was making a set for a jury or a competition, I probably wouldn't include both of them. Thanks for tuning in again this week, and I look forward to sharing with you next week.